Hello again, everyone. This is Joe Henches with Beyond the Chart, and this is technical analysis of the stock market today. Today is Wednesday, December 3rd. We're going to take a look at the markets like we usually do. Then we're going to look at the international indices and three Chinese stocks tonight: BIDU, CTRP, and SINA. Okay, we're going to start off with the Dow, which was up 33 points today. Yesterday was a little bit bigger day, bigger bar. I don't know, I think it was like 100 some points. Can't remember exactly what the number was. And this one is a little tighter. And so it continues to trend above the 10-day moving average, okay, the blue line. So it continues to ride the blue line, all right? And so no sign of breaking down yet, at least on the Dow. S&P 500, we did get one close below it. Now we've got 2 days back above it. So just, a little bit of a slight pullback and then a resumption basically the last 2 days. Now we'll see, this isn't strong. Yes, it's another all-time high. I mean, that's going to get to be a very well worn out phrase here, if not already. The Dow is at a new all-time high too. It just keeps inching its way up, and every time it just inches to a new high and it's at a new all-time high. So the Nasdaq, same thing, riding the blue line, got a little close below the blue here, the 10-day exponential. And the last 2 days worth of trading were actually within Monday's trading range. Today's high did not exceed Monday's high. So we are still within this bar here, wide-ranging bar that happened on Monday. So, and I only point that out because I'm looking at this and saying, well, I don't see this breaking out of this yet. Now it could, but it hasn't done it yet. New York Composite, and we got New York Composite had 3 days below the 10, counting yesterday. Now it closed back above it, a little bit of a snapback. We're not seeing any major divergence showing up on the indicators, DI plus or the RSI, and you don't have to. Again, I look for divergence because a lot of times it's a clue that the trend is ending and is getting ready to turn. But you don't have to have divergence for something to turn. Okay, I like to see it because it then gives me a little bit more of a confirmation that something's happening, versus just a move to the downside and not having seen any divergence. So that's why I look for it. Russell 2000, a little bit of a snapback last 2 days, and again, they're very similar to the New York Composite, again, 3 days below the 10. Now here, this is the first indice to get the 10 crossing below the 21 here. Now it's not strong, it's not rolling over yet, although we're clearly starting to get some kind of support line in here where this came off of. Once it came down into this area, the buying came in on this. The 10 is actually still below the 21, but very slightly. I mean, it's almost exactly equal. Let me draw this in. It's almost like, let me just put a line across like that. Okay, so that's really kind of the support area, and it got down into that range and then it just turned around. And really, I guess if you wanted to look at drawing from a pattern standpoint, let's go ahead and just take the 2 points. Let's do it like this. Now, I don't see a head and shoulders here, but this is where resistances or support has come in. So I am kind of noticing that. I find it, who knows? Maybe we're going to make a fourth run. Maybe the Russell's going to make a fourth run at this trend line. The way this market's acting, who knows? The short-term trading index is right in the middle in here. Again, no real change. We got, fairly low reading down here today, pulled the 10-day down. The VIX, after 2 days up above, we got 2 days back down below. So again, no continuation, no follow through, and the moving averages haven't crossed. So right now it's not telling us that there's a big move to the downside showing up. The high-low index got a little bit of a snapback today too, in terms of 119 more new highs than there were new lows today. The little moving averages have got in here are still got the 10 below the 21, but that's just more to kind of give a feel for what the short-term trend is. And right now you can see that the short-term trend is down. I mean, you don't really need the moving averages to tell you that. It's just kind of a action in here that it's trending downward, but a little bit of a snapback here today. And the other thing I was looking at is the high yield bond fund, which, you know, I've looked at on the weekends and starting to incorporate on a regular basis. It really has broken down pretty substantially. And the fact that, like I mentioned on Monday or Saturday, I can't remember which, how low this close was in terms of the lowest close in quite a long time. I'm really surprised that this hasn't led the market down a little more than it has. You know, the market really hasn't rolled over, given the indication of what this was doing, given the way it was acting back here in late August, early September, and the same thing that was doing in early July into mid-July. Again, the dotted lines were the peaks in July, and the peak on September 19th that was the high date of the indices, and then they rolled over. And you can see how the moving averages had crossed, and this had trended down. Well, we're now, let's see, I think this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 days past a crossover line, and you know the markets are right at their peak. So I don't know whether or not this is still leading and being an indication of that way or not. It'll be interesting to see how it shows up over the next few days or week. Okay, so that's the high yield bond. Let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at some of the internationals. Look at our European friends, the German DAX. You know, I know a week ago we were back here. We had this big move, and this was on the 27th. And let's see. Yeah, I think we actually might have come in on the 26th. And then basically it's just gone sideways. Had almost a reversal bar, but it wasn't an outside down reversal bar, but it still may be some kind of reversal action that's going in, because you just got a little doji bar here today. So, but you know, the German DAX has pulled right up back, you know, to its highs here and gone to a higher high. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Some of the economic indicators that are coming out, maybe it's just because the money is just flowing around way too much. I say way too much. It's not that it's too much, but it's the money that's flowing around that I think is causing the market movements. And the money's flowing, and just like the ECB is trying to stimulate, you know, over there with additional money, just like we've had the QE 1, 2, and 3. You know, it's because the economy was not in that great a shape that it kept having to pump money in. Anyway, you know, the market's going to do what the market's going to do, and right now the DAX is right up there. Let's take a look at the MISEX, and this is the other thing that's really puzzling to me. I mean, look at the Russian stock market. Maybe Putin and his friends, everybody's buying the Russian stock market, and they're just, you know, making money, and it's like, okay, who, you know, go ahead and sanction us, because it doesn't seem to be hurting the Russian stock market any at all. And it's pushed right above these highs from last year before the whole Ukraine incident happened, and here it is pushing up. I think it's at like 2.5-year highs or something, or might even be greater than that. So pretty strong move that's going on here in the MISEX index. All right, the next one we're going to take a look at is India. Nifty 50. It continues to ride the blue line too. And so, you know, it's just trending up, you know, tight little moves in here. But again, it's like you'll get 2 or 3 tight little moves, and then you get a little breakout bar or two, like in here and here. And it just keeps pushing and inching its way up. I do think it's in a little fifth minor wave, but it hasn't rolled over yet. So it's doing very well. Shanghai Composite, speaking of doing very well, this looks like a rocket launch. I mean, this thing is just taken off like crazy. I mean, look at this, just straight up. I think we're in some kind of a fifth move, but we will see. And you can see where this has gone. I mean, we're back pushing the highs. Actually, have we taken out this point here? Boy, we're right at it, I think. Right at resistance. What's the high in here? 28.25. 28.26. So basically 28.27. And the high today, 28.24. So we're potentially running into some resistance right here. We'll see whether that, causes anything, any bit of a slowdown or pause or whatever. After you get past this point, I mean, you get another little chunk up here to the upside, right up in this range. So this thing, of course, nothing's going to go. You never know how far something's going to go, but it seems like once you start going vertical like this, there's a limit to how much it's really going to do before it pauses or pulls back. So, but right now this is looking, beautiful. I mean, look at this move. It's one of those exponential type of curves that just, look really, really nice. Let's see. I think that's it on that's it on the international market. So let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at BIDU. So it's interesting that the Shanghai, now I know there's a lot of stock exchanges in China, but I think Shanghai has gotten to be probably one of the most premier and popular. And of course now they've hooked up with Hong Kong. And so what I'm surprised at is, you see this kind of action in the Shanghai index, and then you look at what's happening with some of the Chinese ADR stocks over here, BIDU, CTRP, SINA. And, right now, I think BIDU's topped out. I think we've had 5 primary waves up, and there's a good chance that this was the top of the 5th wave. And so far over the last few weeks, it's been reaffirming that. And it's rolling over right now. We're getting moving average cross. We'll see whether this continues to fall through to the downside or not and breaking this channel line. Okay, it's kind of in a big channel. But right now, I mean, BIDU's had a big move, and it's had several big moves for a while. And it's just like anything with any stock. I mean, at some point, you have to digest the move that you've had. You either go sideways or you pull back. So I'm going to continue to watch to see what this starts to do. And as we get into corrective waves, things can get rather messy. All right, CTRP. Let's take a look at CTRP. This is one we talked about back 2 weeks ago on, I think, the 19th. And I said at the time on the 19th, I said, because drawing this trend line in here, this kind of overlapping action in here, this looked corrective to me. And sure enough, we've gotten the fall through to the downside. A huge gap here. I think it was after they had some kind of earnings report that came out. And so now I think we are into this C wave here. Okay, A, B, C. Get rid of the crosshairs. So we've got A, B, C, and here A, C. So the real question is going to be, how far does C go? That's the $1 million question. So what I like to do is take a projection, and we'll go, let me use the crosshair again. I love the crosshairs just to come in and target where the point is. Here's where A, and then back to the end of B. So C will equal A down here at about 40.5 to 41 in this range. Okay, that's where the C wave will equal the A wave in points. So now the other perspective to look at on this particular wave, which I'm calling a primary wave 1, and we'll look at it in a bigger move. But okay, so 5 waves up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So this corrective action needs to correct this entire wave. So the other thing to do is look at a retracement and say, okay, if we look at the entire wave and we go up here, it's going to be close. All right. Well, it's interesting that 50% correction is very close to where that 100% mark that I just talked about. Okay. So right down in here where C will equal A is where there's a 50% correction of this entire move. So that starts to make me think that we might be pretty close in terms of a target as to the kind of move. Now, so what are we going to watch for? C should be 5 waves. So the real question is, how easily visible are these 5 waves going to be as it starts to float it on out right now? And sometimes you got to move down to hourly charts to get a look at that. Okay, the last thing we're going to take a look at here is SINA real quick. And it is continuing to do not a whole lot. I mean, it's pushed down 2 weeks ago, on the 19th, we were right in here, and it's pulled up, it's rolled back over, continuing to trend below the blue line, riding the blue line to the downside, and it has now gone below this previous point here. I'm just seeing nothing but continued move to the downside. And you back out, you're like, okay, where are we? Where's potential support going to come in? And we might be starting to get it, because you're talking about support that came in right in here, which is that's about 34.3 down to 32. So 32 to 34. We may be getting close to where it's going to get substantial support start to come in. But, that could still be another, 5 to 10% below where it's at. And I don't believe, we're not seeing any, on a short-term basis, I'm not seeing divergence on the RSI, not seeing divergence here on the DI minus, and not seeing on the demand index. So right now, this is getting every indication that it wants to just continue trending to the downside. So we'll just have to watch to see if that's what happens, or if it starts to tell us something different. Okay, that's it for tonight. This has been Joe for Beyond the Chart. If you felt like the video was helpful, please share it on social media. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. Gives you access to the Trade Ideas page. And by the way, speaking of Trade Ideas, I have modified a couple of stops on, what were they? Adobe. Moved a stop up on Adobe and pushed the stop back on FireEye because of the action that it had today. So I had tightened the stop because of where it did yesterday. Now I loosened it back up a little bit based on the action that it did today, because it's in sync with the setup. So wanted to make sure you're aware of that. And again, to get access to the Trade Ideas webpage, just become a subscriber, first name and email, and you're good to go. Gives you access and notice as to when I post, and gives you the free PDF I've got for you also. Okay, I'll be back on Saturday with a market update, and we'll look at everything on a weekend basis at that time. Everyone have a great Thursday, Friday.